It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DiCecco.
My first allegiance is what will be best for the Philadelphia Eagles and our fans for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. The guy's new podcast is out today with Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher. Today, Andrew DiCecco's in the house for today's edition of Football at 4. I'm very interested to have this conversation with Andrew today. It's brought to you by Dr. Lyle M. Back. Everything from skincare to cosmetic surgery. Go to iloveLyleBack.com or call 856-MAKEOVER for Dr. Lyle M. Back, proud sponsor of this edition of Football at 4. Yesterday, we talked a lot about Kyle Pitts and how he might fit. And a lot of people had some backlash. You don't draft a tight end. You do not draft a tight end at that spot. Andrew DiCecco, I definitely want to get your take on this. And more than just drafting a tight end at that spot, how you view Pitts, how you would view him in this particular offense, and do you think taking a player like Kyle Pitts is too high at number 6? So let's bring Andrew DiCecco into this conversation. It was a good conversation yesterday. We had a lot of feedback on it on social media and the text board. So let's bring Andrew DiCecco, who knows the draft very well inside and out, and get his perspective on this and more here on Football at 4. Andrew, what's up, man?
Hey, Mike, how you doing? And to answer that question, you know, it's kind of hard to say, would you draft Kyle Pitts at 6? Would you take a tight end at 6? Because he can do so much more. That tight end label should not apply to Kyle Pitts because he's someone who can be moved around the entire offense. He can run routes better than a lot of wide receivers in this draft class. He's athletic. When you look and see how a Travis Kelce can take over a game, he has that kind of ability. And, you know, when you have a young quarterback like Jalen Hurts, or any young quarterback for that matter, they tend to lean on their tight ends and look for throws over the middle. And he has the frame and the big body and the catch radius and everything to make life easier for a young quarterback trying to get acclimated in a system. So when you look at it in those terms, yeah, I have Kyle Pitts very, very closely rated with Jamar Chase. I still think I would go with Jamar Chase at 6, but I mean, if they were to trade down a few spots, I mean, Kyle Pitts would be right there, and it's hard to argue that value.
All right, so a couple things here. One, I've seen, and I don't know, like, look, people have said, look, other tight ends, Hawkinson was 8th, O.J. Howard, I think, was 19th. Other tight ends have gone in the first round, and I guess you don't feel like you've gotten your bang for your buck there. You just kind of indicated he's more than just a tight end, but would that still justify saying I'm going to take a guy at number 6 that is classified as a tight end based on, hey, Hawkinson went 8th and he's good, but he's not like special. Howard has had problems. I don't know, if you got Darren Waller, knowing what you now know about Waller, and you drafted him number 6, is that justifiable?
Well, as of last season, he was their top option on their offense in the passing game, and he single-handedly took over games. You can remember the game late in the season when he was just making these unbelievable contested catches down the field. I mean, those are the type of game-changing, playmaking type of players that every offense needs in order to be successful. And he's going to be an All-Pro, and he has that in his future for many years to come. And when you know that you have an All-Pro player there with his kind of ability, I think you do that. And I think when you look at his versatility and all the things that he can bring to an offense, where you don't have to just pigeonhole him into one position. And I mean, it's certainly going to be very enticing and an interesting conversation to have in the coming weeks. But I mean, like I said, at 6, I think that would be a little high to take a tight end or someone who's more of a hybrid type of player. Whereas a guy like Jamar Chase does fit that traditional role as a wide receiver. You know what you're getting there. He's going to have a defined role, whereas you have to kind of find you're going to use Kyle Pitts, but it's going to be in a myriad of different ways. So, I mean, there's a little bit more certainty with a guy like Jamar Chase. And, of course, the wide receiver position, that's a blue-chip type of player. Those are the ones that typically go in the top 8.
Yeah, so, for instance, Hawkinson, Howard, while they were some of the highest-rated tight ends, and some people compared them somewhat to Pitts, and I want to get your opinion on how you would compare Pitts to the most recent, because there's been a lot of good tight ends recently. I have never seen a tight end ranked in like the top 5 overall in a draft. I can't remember the last time I've seen a tight end ranked this high in terms of an overall board.
No, I mean, maybe you have to go all the way back to maybe like Kellen Winslow Jr. years ago when I think he went to the Browns, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, that was 2003, 2002, like that. But yeah, it's very rare that you see that. But like when he's got the size, the speed, and the desirable traits that you're going to look for in an offensive weapon. And like I said, when you have a young quarterback like the Eagles do, even if they go elsewhere, go with Jalen Hurts, I mean, they're going to need that security blanket, that guy that's going to be able to kind of create in space and come up with those contested catches.
Yeah, I know. I want to get your opinion on. See, all right, I you said you would take Chase over Pitts if they were both there. I tend to like Chase more too. I actually like Pitts for the Eagles because they already have Goddard, and I kind of view this as like almost like a Gronk and Hernandez type of situation. Like, to me, Pitts is more of an attractive option because I already have Goddard. It feels like it would make them a much more difficult team to defend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you have the best of both worlds in that tight end pairing, as Goddard's more of a out of the two, he's the more superior inline blocker, but he's also extremely dynamic with the football in his hands after the catch, and he can threaten the seam, and he can also, come up with some of those tough catches down the sideline. And you didn't really get that with Zach Ertz. He wasn't someone that was going to break tackles or anything, but he was a terrific route runner and had very soft hands. But I mean, if you were to add those two, Mike, it adds a completely different dynamic to the Eagles' offense. Yeah, the receiving core in general, I mean, it does need to be addressed when you look at it. But I mean, when you bring in Kyle Pitts, you bring him in knowing, okay, we can move him outside, we can move him in the slot, we can play him at tight end, we can move him all around. So I think if you get him, you already know that you're getting a versatile player, and he can play some wide receiver for you.
Yeah, I and not only that, like, how do you think it would fit? Like, what would adding a guy like Pitts do for Rieger? How you would use Miles Sanders?
If you add a Kyle Pitts to your offense, it's going to open things up for Jalen Reagor, and Jalen Reagor doesn't have to maybe necessarily traditionally be out wide. He can take the ball out of the backfield on jet sweeps. You can get him the ball on screens, because we're going to be worried about wherever Kyle Pitts is aligned, because he's not ever going to be in the same exact place for the entire game. They're going to continuously move him around, whatever team does get him. It would open things up for him. It would open things up for the running game, in particular Miles Sanders, because you have another weapon out there that has to be accounted for, also with Dallas Goedert there as well. So, I mean, you're always going to be mindful of where he's at. And it just opens everything up for everybody else, and it makes it a much more cohesive offense.
Yeah, I mean, it is intriguing. 6 is interesting, though. If they were to trade back, where's the line of demarcation where you would lose? Like, if I said, okay, I can move back to 8, is Pitts on the board? Where do you think he's on the board? What's the furthest down you can go if you, like, say, yeah, you know what, I want to move back because I hope I get Pitts?
I would say more than likely 8, no further than 9, but likely 8. You don't want to go past that, because I think that's kind of where he's going to go.
So 8, 9 is the spot there. All right. Chase and Pitts, if they're both on the board, you said Chase. What is special about Chase that you like? I have my reasons. I want to hear what yours are, because obviously you do a lot more studying on the draft to me. He's my favorite receiver. I've watched the 3 guys now a bunch, and entering this before, just watching him now, I didn't get to see Chase this year. Obviously, he didn't play. Watching the guys that were available, I probably would have leaned Smith as my favorite. But now going back and watching Chase, he's my clear favorite. I like him better than the other 2 by far. What do you like about Chase?
Well, first and foremost, I like his physical stature to be a top receiver that you're going to take in that range. I like that he was competed at a high level and put up tremendous numbers going against, some of the superior talent in college football. I also like his aggressiveness after the catch. He reminds me of Deebo Samuel. He's aggressive. He's going to pick up those yards. Might not be a burner, but he's going to come. He knows how to get open. Could use a little bit more refining in his route running, but I do like that he attacks the catch point. He's physical. He goes up and gets it. He knows how to. He has a plan at the line of scrimmage. And I just like his competitive nature, and I do like the fact that he's another guy that you can move him around. But I believe he's 6 foot, but he's more of a compact build. And he's kind of you pair him with Jalen Reagor and Dallas Goedert, and I think that you start to have a nice little group of offensive players all of a sudden.
Those two guys would be a big boost to the offense here. Obviously, Pitts, Chase. I think we talked about this before. That Chase was described as like a bigger, faster version of Anquan Bolden. To me, I mean that Bolden was a tremendous asset to have. He just wasn't that big, that fast guy. He was more of a chain mover. But I get a big physical guy that could do those things. And then, look, I think a lot of it, Andrew, depends on what you get from Reagor. Like, he is such a wild card and unknown because we didn't see enough of him last year.
Yeah, and I think that you're going to see a different Jalen Reagor with a full off season, with another year under his belt. It's a very, every rookie, you can't look at Justin Jefferson and say, well, Justin Jefferson was able to pull it off and have a prolific rookie season. Not everybody's wired the same. So, and we don't know about the coaching or what goes on behind closed doors, because everybody takes the coaching different, and sometimes people don't really hit their stride until their second season. So I think it's too premature to write Jalen off. You need to see what he's able to do this offseason. Now that he knows that it's going to be likely Jalen Hurts, you can get work in with the quarterback. You can work on your route running, and the things that Aaron Moore had harped on during the season. You can now work on those things, and hopefully he's going to come back a lot more polished in the route running department. He showed some signs, he kind of awareness issues, running his routes, not knowing where the sideline was, and not looking for the football and things of that nature. But I think all those things get cleaned up in your second season. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what he can do, but he does have a versatile skill set, and hopefully he can be that guy they drafted him to be.
Yeah, and we had Quentin Michael on Tuesday's show and asked him about the impact of your position coach, I mean, the secondary coach, and he really stressed how important that guy is. You wonder the impact of the new coaches and the development struggles that this team has had, how much that may have impacted, and getting a guy like Nick Sirianni here, how much that might help a guy not only like Reagor, but I don't know, are you ready to give up on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, or you think there's something salvageable there? Travis Fulgham, like, are you intrigued enough by seeing what Nick Sirianni as the head coach can get from these young players?
Well, I think he deserves the time and the optimism, because he has the background. They hired him for a reason. He has a background working with wide receivers. So does Kevin Patullo. Obviously, Aaron Moorhead is there. He's played in the NFL before. I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge to tap into. If you're one of the Eagles receivers, they have a young receiving core. I mean, you're going to pull away a lot of knowledge from those guys. And I think that you have as a whole in that department, I think there's a lot of area of intrigue there as far as developing some of these guys. I mean, it's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I'm not ready to write him off just yet. What I will say about him is he's not going to be the second round receiver that he was drafted to be. He's going to be a spot role player that's going to come up with those tough catches, maybe a red zone guy, but he's not going to be a starting receiver in the NFL. There's too many blemishes to his game, but I do think that there's a role for him on this football team. But it was definitely a reach in the second round. Like I said on your show before, I had a 4th round grade on him, so I was kind of surprised to see him go there. But regardless, I think he has a role. He's going to have to be able to play some special teams. Travis Fulgham is the interesting one to me, because you don't just have those 4 weeks of production, high end production, by mistake. There has to be he has talent, and for some reason or another, that he went on a cold streak. They went to Alshon Jeffrey. Who knows what played into that? But he's another guy that Alshon's not going to be here. He's going to have every opportunity to carve out a role in this football team. He now has a full year within the system. He's got a wealth of knowledge around him as far as coaches. So let's see what he can do. I think that there's reason for optimism.
All right. I know this is totally just opinion, and obviously a lot of this is all opinion, but who, in your mind, is the more productive guy in this coming season? Hightower, Watkins, Ortega-Whiteside?
To me, it's going to be Quez Watkins. And
wow.
Why I say that, I think Quez Watkins is one of those sleeper players that we look at the roster. I think he's going to make a big jump in year two. He's not going to be a starter, more than likely, but he's going to be someone that they're going to have packages for, that they're going to expose, that they're going to use his speed to exploit secondaries. You saw him really kind of come on late in the season over those other two players that you mentioned. And he actually impressed me more. He was further along as a rookie than I anticipated when he was drafted. And he's going to have to work on his route running and really hone that skill. But he also can provide ability as a punt returner if they want to go that route. He has done. He can offer special teams upside, and I think that he can be one of those guys that can really threaten teams vertically. And be more of a consistent presence in the offense.
That's a little surprising. Now, of the three, he was the least productive this past year, even less than J.J. Ortega-Whiteside. I kind of agree that I don't think they gave him enough of an opportunity, but I'm really hopeful that Sirianni, who has a wide receiver coach background, sees that, okay, you don't have to be an every down player to be able to make an impact. And I think Watkins, I agree with you there. Like, you can use him in ways that you can get something. I always say you can accentuate the positives from what this guy can do. If that's 4 touches a game, then that's what it is. But I think there's more impactful opportunities from a guy like Watkins than the Eagles utilized last year.
No, and absolutely. And you saw he has the breakaway speed, the elusiveness, just the big play potential that those other two, that John Hightower and JJ, they don't have. And like you said, he's not going to be somebody that you're going to force feed the ball to. He's not going to garner 8 targets a game or anything like that. But he's going to be someone that I can anticipate having a big player to every week or every other week that's really going to make an impact on the team. And when you look at where he was drafted last season, that's tremendous value. And late in the season, he was the guy that they were using over, John Hightower and JJ. So, I mean, I think that he kind of showed growth throughout the season, enough so where their coaches felt comfortable putting him out there, and they saw the athleticism and the big play upside that he offered. And I think that's going to translate into next season.
Yeah. First off, this is the one positive of having a bad season, is that you're so wrapped into the draft. I'm very excited about it. Being in the 6th spot, there's so many intriguing stories. Andrew does a great job with draft stuff. Make sure you check him out at DiCecco NFL on Twitter. Follow him there for all this draft conversation we'll be having. Good stuff with Kyle Pitts. And obviously tomorrow, Adam is in. We'll get more news and notes from him. The guys from the Inside the Birds podcast right here during Football at 4. And they, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Andrew, I could talk draft with you for a long time, my friend, but we are out of time.
Fortunately, we have a couple more months to do so I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Andrew DiCecco and Football at 4, it's brought to you by our friends over at Dr. Lyle M. Back for everything from skincare to cosmetic surgery. Go to ilovelylback.com, proud sponsor of Football at 4. Make sure you give them a call, 856-MAKE-OVER.